you very much. Hi everybody. So I'll keep you motivated and kind of awake for the next 20 minutes at least. Thank you for staying until Thursday afternoon for being here. I'll do kind of a quick review of who we are and then go into the details. So Sidekick, my name is Guy, I run Sidekick. Sidekick has been around for almost 4 years now. We started as a developer, work-for-hire developer for console, PC, did a lot of demo technology, basically anything that kept the light on, but it was always work-for-hire. So kind of, we did a project, we provided it, on time, on budget to our customers, but things changed, and through the time we did for Square Enix Mini Ninja Adventures, that was a Kinect title, but then on and on as times change, we started to shift our business more toward mobile, free-to-play, ongoing live services, and that actually required a lot of rethinking of how we work, how the team works, and we didn't want to break the house. Obviously, we wanted that process to be very successful. And I'm here basically to share what happened at Sidekick, or give you the best tips and tricks as we do the change. So transformation, that's what we're talking about. How can we change our business as the time change? So just for me to understand who are the transformers here, who's running a studio or in charge of running a studio that's going now through this type of change? I hope I can help you a bit. Who's part of a team that's going through this change? Thank you. So the rest of you are, again, thank you for being here. For me, probably. So this transformation that we're talking about is actually something that happens on an ongoing basis. It doesn't start somewhere, it ends somewhere. It does happen where leadership feels that it wants to do something else instead of just doing work for hire. Also because that's where the market is. In high level, the main thing that you look at these new times are like two elements: the pre-launch and post-launch events. Whether before we had like one big section, we started development. That was always hard because it's hard to start something. Then there was a kind of a water flow or whatever process you use, and then after QA, there's an RC, and the game is done. And hopefully, you pray to the gods of marketing or whatever that the game would be out and the publisher would do good. But now we have like two different sections. There's the first and second section, and what I like really to call assumptions in realities, which is not pre and post launch. But before launch, there are really a lot of assumptions: what would work, what wouldn't work, what people would like, what the gods would like, and then realities. And this is, for us, was probably the first, different way of thinking, of saying we want to get to realities as soon as possible. We're actually welcoming realities. We want to get in front of the information that comes from getting the game out to market, and then really work based on real feedback and real data versus our hopeful, ideas, whether they're coming from creative, production, management, or art. But then we had to actually do the change. So, you're in front of this dark forest, scary forest. Who would go in? Who would, out of you, go into this type of forest? Anyone? Come on. It's a forest. Yeah. Well, as you can see, some of us are a bit more adventurous than others. Some of us willing to take the risk because they are curious, because they like the challenge. And we found pretty much the same thing at Sidekick. Some of the people at Sidekick were more nimble than others. Some people at Sidekick were more open for a riskier situation than others. And what we did was actually to locate these people, 3 people, and equip them to go into this situation where they'll face more risk, things will be less rigid than it used to be in a kind of a milestone-based type of production. And we send them off to the Wild West, or to the forest in this case. We gave them a lot of support, but we said, let's go and do that. So the first thing the next thing for us was really to locate these people. It's not about letting go other people, because once the team is inside that forest, you do need those systematic people, the people that seems to be more rigid, but they are really the delivery guys, to back that SWAT team in. But we did find that team and build that team to go and be the first team that would go into free-to-play production. And it's really, more than anything else, all about the team. It's really building not that one person or 2 person, a team that would have different skills. For us, it was technical skill. It was a couple of art guys who were very motivated to test these kind of new grounds, with a production team, actually a producer specifically, that we brought in to kind of be the leader in this new exploration. And as we advanced and learned and tested and read and sometimes, gone into some holes in the ground that we didn't expect, we had the back-end team, the more traditional team, backing these guys out, helping with production, helping with some art, helping with some programming that we already had as we took the production to market. So getting a small team, but also understanding in the back of your mind or in your pipeline or whatever way that you manage your production, that this team would need support. You can't just throw them there and hopefully that they'll come out at the next side of the forest victorious. The next thing was, and I know that a lot of people are talking about it, but again, it is always a painful thing, looking for that minimal viable product or the core feature of the game. So I don't know, a lot of you might experience that, but who's working with these people who said, guys, we need that one extra feature, and if we add that feature, we'll have a killer game. So do you know this? I mean, who experienced that? So like almost 100%. That's a good conversion. That's perfect. Remember, now we don't have that ship and forget mentality. This is a perfect time for writing down that feature, because it might be a good feature, but being able to saying, okay, we need to focus on the core element of what we want to do, and then have all these features integrated after we launch. And integrated based on data, you really understand how you can prioritize all those great new ideas, some of them more great than others probably, as you release the game. This actually for us has been a great tool to manage all the priorities for all the feature and element we wanted to integrate in our classic full game. But instead of doing that all in once, because we wanted to get to market quick, we actually managed to push that forward and actually take a lot of the discussions about those extra features out. But since everybody wants to be happy, you can't keep everybody happy all the time, okay? We did try to figure out how to make people really engage and happy with the production. And what we did was actually to focus on short best, focus more on what we, Scrum element, and basically make sure that every milestone will have a build. Overall, we suddenly look at very short period of time in terms of development. We want to make sure that at every point, the team, that core team, that's developing the game would be practically very proud of what they're doing and very hands-on with what they're doing. So every milestone, we actually have a very playable build. That build is being installed on everyone's phones and tablets. People are playing that. People are playing around and showing their closed circle of trusted family and friend. And that kept everybody very, very engaged with what we were doing. It also gone to, it was bi-directional because we got a lot of great feedback through the production. And since the production time is so short, you want to make sure that you are, as much on track as you can before you launch. A lot of those close, quick cycles are actually creating a situation where very quickly you can find yourself in different part of that forest that you didn't really expect to be on, or a divert from the main road. Exploration is super important. You need to have those nimble guys. You need to have that programmer who stays up, a few hours in to test something, and then, maybe it's great, maybe it's not. But if it's great, they are not really afraid to show and discuss that. You need the art guy that can play around with some stuff, and then, maybe you get on something. And that is super important, while a lot of the production people usually feel very rigid, said, we still need to keep to milestones. Actually, they may be used to 1 year or a year and a half of production. Suddenly they need to have a game out in 6 months or even less. So they feel that they don't have time for anything. Actually, you need to leave some time for that. Okay, but obviously never forget where you're going, where your main goal is. And this is where the producer really plays an important role, really kind of giving the broader area, looking at the broader area, but keeping the borders very, very clear, at least in his own mind, as people are going out, exploring, the bigger area of the forest, but getting to the other side, because that's what counts at the end of the day. And almost the last point is that, with the new models today. So not everybody is doing in-app purchase. Not everybody is doing free-to-play. But when we actually gone out and launched the game, and we're launching about 4 games, mobile, free-to-play, in-app purchase game by the end of the year, we figure out very quickly that a lot of the business actually is running a store. A real store, just like Walmart here. You're running items, you're running shelf space, you're running pricing. That's something that we never had in our own studio, and most people don't have in their own studio. Most publishers don't have in their publishing house. This is a totally new trait that some people are more oriented to, but really requires some new skills. And this is actually where we needed to hire more people coming from online games, even coming from analytic systems that are not really connected directly to video games. And these guys really helped a lot. Some of them were coming in as advisors. Some of them were staying full-time with us later on. But we really found that you need some kind of a store manager, practically, more than just a monetization designer that could, on an ongoing basis, kind of manage that commerce section of the game in correlation with the entire gameplay, game design, progression, and production. So not everything is scary and bad. You do have guiding angels, just like a video game. You have some helping hand. And these helping hands are actually your players. Some people like to call them more and more consumers. I saw in other presentation, they're players. But these players suddenly can feedback. They feedback not only with the remarks, which is something that we got used to with the web and portals and all that, they actually respond in a very passive way through their usage. And we just had this talk about the back-end analytics, and this is why. Because you get all the time the data of what your guiding angels, what your players are doing, where they're playing more, where they're getting stuck, where they do not move from one point to another in the game. And that's probably where a lot of the new trait in the business is coming in. People who analyze these numbers, they don't need to be casino level or crazy huge data people at first, but really looking at the main KPIs, at the main points, at the main data through the usage, really looking at the point where you can do something about it, because there's a lot of data that's being gathered by a lot of systems. Points that you can actually do something about and getting all the KPIs better than before. Again, we needed to hire one person here that would help us. Our main studio is in Israel, so we had some casino guys actually coming over and helping us doing that transition. The feedback there was amazing. We actually celebrate that feedback by getting all the numbers up on a screen. People, all the team, the entire team, see the number, and that these numbers actually motivate them more than anything else. They're very happy when things are going well. They are very motivated to change things when numbers are not going very well. They want more players. They want more players to experience their creation. And for a lot of your team, it is about a creation. It's not necessarily about the business the way that you may see it. Okay? Getting the numbers out there, exposed, telling the entire team, your QA, your art, everybody, what these numbers actually mean, would actually get the team very oriented. And that obviously for teams of number of people, not necessarily for the teams of, the higher tens or hundreds of people, which I actually know very few games that are that big in using these kind of teams. So I don't know how much time we have, but I'll give you kind of a quick few tips that kind of we went through. So new code, new type of world. It's an online world. Allow yourself to change some of the game parameters online. It requires really an extra, resource or time to add this into the game. But that actually helps us to be more nimble in changing stuff instead of uploading a new update every time. It's worth it. The same way in your production, again, short time, everybody's pressed because they're not used to it, definitely the first time, to getting a game out to market. Leave yourself time, I would even say a lot of time, in integrating third-party technologies. Whatever you'll be using, it took more time than we expect, and if the salesperson of this or that company would say, the integration takes 2 hours, take that with a grain of salt. It doesn't. After launch, be quick to respond, definitely the first time. A lot of what we've seen, we had that once, and we saw that in, with some of our friends. We're used to do milestone by milestone. A milestone can take anywhere between weeks or maybe even a month or some. No, we don't have that time anymore. You need to be quick to respond. After you launch, especially like the first few weeks or the first few months, you need to be very, very quick to respond. Don't think that people are waiting for your next milestone. There's no producer at the other side of the room or the forest. There are actual players who want to see their needs, their stuff change and optimize and getting, more fun for them. And don't lose yourself in the process. Remember why you started the game. Remember what you wanted to achieve. That might change because it was a lot of assumptions, but there was also kind of a message behind it usually. There was some kind of a creative thought about it usually. And that's important to remember because a lot of people are trying this and that, and eventually there's kind of a spaghetti at the other side of the production, which doesn't really reflect well on the initial, sometimes great thought that was there. So yeah, a lot of risk, a lot of unknowns, more than the usual production. I like this sentence. Ray Bradbury, American fiction writer, he was, as far as I checked on the internet, was the first guy to say, first you jump off the cliff and you build your wings on the way down. It was quoted later by many other people. That's very much what you feel when you do that in entrepreneurship in general, in creating a free-to-play game. I hope that this talk gave you a few points to actually be able to really build your wings as you slide down that cliff on your way to success. I found these guys, there's a list of Twitter accounts, to be very, very helpful in sharing knowledge, in some motivation about the process, and I really recommend you kind of following them and reading what they do. Thank you very much.